Hi guys, Matt Moran here. If you don't know me, I'm a chef restaurateur. Sitting on the couch here with Mark Bouris, having straight talk. We're talking all things food, my upbringing. When I grew up, asparagus came out of a tin.
Yeah, same.
Yeah,
And they're really soft.
What I'm going to do for Christmas lunch, I love cooking for Christmas Day.
So my thing gets fucked up, I'll just come around your place.
You come to my house, I'm not leaving. Mark keeps talking about some business venture he wants me to do.
He and I are going to put together a whiskey brand.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Why am I not involved
Well, you want
in
to
that?
get involved?
Mate, bloody oath I will. Talk to you soon, guys.
G'day, Matt. Welcome to Straight Talk. We put you on the podcast the other day. It was great. We talked about your various business ventures, etc., which has been widely accepted. Now, if you want to go see that, by the way, you go to podcast1.com.au or go to the new Podcast One Australia app, and sweet, you can watch it. But today is about Matt Moran, and I actually want to sort of dig in a little bit deeper about a few things with you, mate. And
fair enough.
One thing I want to ask you.
Bit nervous now.
Stop staring at my lump. And I know you're staring at my lump, and we're going to put this up around Christmas time. So, people are going to watch this around Christmas. I want to ask you a couple of questions about Christmas, and I want to ask you a question about cooking, actually.
Yep.
A personal question. Before I do, though, everybody would be interested to know, because the economy's changed, has turned around. How well are your venues going now?
Mate, if you want to be anywhere in the world, I think you want to be in Australia.
Yep.
And probably Sydney, I'd say. Look, it's not back to what it would be this time of year, but we're doing pretty bloody well.
Yeah.
And on Monday, the restrictions get released even more, 2 square metres. It helps our big venues. Opera Bar's gone from capped at 300 to 1,100. Barangaroo capped at 300 to about 700 now, I think. The medium venues hasn't done a lot because we've still got 1.5 metres in between the tables. But I'd say, we'll be 75% next week of what we normally would be this time of year.
And are people drinking? I mean, you got less people, but are the people that you get in there, they're actually going hard?
Mate, we have seen across the board a bigger average spend in every venue.
Totally, yeah.
So they're staying a little bit longer, they're enjoying it a little bit more. Whether it's JobKeeper money or what, but they're spending more money, which is great because that only helps the economy. But yeah, look, I'm very lucky to be in Australia and be in Sydney. I see my
100%.
mates over in Gordon Ramsay and all those guys in London, and they're still heavily restricted on what they can do, and they're really suffering.
So
they've been in and out of this
big
2 or 3
time
times.
struggling.
Oh yeah, it's really tough. Look, I think it's still going to get tough a little bit next year. Come Easter after JobKeeper. But we seem to be doing all right.
What about your mates in Victoria? I mean, what's going on down there?
Mate, they are.
Who do you talk to down? Did you talk to George?
George is a good mate.
Yep.
George, I love Georgie. He's been a good friend. What happened to him was tragic. With the whole pay thing, I won't go into that. But look, all chefs get on really well. Andrew McConnell's a great mate. Shannon Bennett's a great mate. George is a good friend. So I don't have an interest in Melbourne, but I actually have an interest in what they're doing.
How are they going down there?
They're coming out of it now.
Yeah.
So they're going nuts. I'm actually going down there on Monday. I'm taking my daughter down, father-daughter, shopping in Melbourne. We just say we're going down shopping for the rest of the family.
So you must be going. Well, the Opera Bar must have been going good if you're game to take your daughter down to Melbourne for shopping.
Oh, you know what? It's just Mim's only 15, and it's just a really good time.
Fuck, how expensive is it to fly down there though?
Oh yeah, I got lucky. I got in as soon as we could, and it's a lot more expensive than what it was. But it's just a really good time to spend with your daughter one-on-one. Phones go away. We go out for dinner somewhere. So we're going to Tipo 00, which is a good Italian joint. And we say shopping for everyone else, but it's not really. It's just shopping for her.
Yeah, but that's so cool. I mean, I never had a daughter, but I had a lot of girlfriends, wives. Probably, people thought they were probably my daughter because they're young enough. But but I never had the luxury of having a daughter. For me, I got 4 sons, and they are very boyish. And we all lived together in the city in the Astor, and there was the 4 boys, me, we had a housekeeper, and we had a dog, male dog. So imagine us so my
lots
boys,
of penises.
Totally, lots of penises, lots of farting, and lots of dirty jokes. And dinner time was like a mess. In other words, It was embarrassing. It'd be embarrassing for. Lucky the housekeeper wouldn't speak English. She was Japanese. Well, her English was pretty bad, so she didn't really cotton on what they were talking about. Could you imagine the conversations? It was a sort of pub conversation. Mate, one of the things you told me in the podcast is that you spent a number of years as an apprentice chef learning how to cook, and then a number of years learning how to use ingredients after becoming a cook. Like, what does that mean? Like, I don't understand that. Like, what's the difference?
Look, I suppose when I started cooking, I was only 15, right? And, grew up out west like you and fell in love with it, really fell in love with it. I'm a little bit obsessive compulsive. So back in those days, it was 6 days, we're doing 80 hours a week. Weren't probably getting properly paid, but just really, to me, it was a training, and it was a French restaurant, one of the best in Sydney, a little place called La Belle Helene. And it was, if you wanted to learn how to cook, that's where you went. So that real classic training, and you learn how to roast something or pan fry something or make mousselines or make pastry, make souffles and like the real core of cooking. And that's what French cookery is all about. It's very classic and some people say it's quite boring, but it's a technique. It's like if you're going to be a bricklayer, you got to learn how to, lay bricks properly, and then you can be creative. And I always found La Belle was the best training, and I remember going to college and thinking, wow, I know all this stuff because the college course that you did, commercial cookery, was all based on the French techniques. And I was doing that at work. So I had the advantage over everyone else. I was the youngest, and I actually topped the bloody year every year, or, in the top one or two. The people listening to that would probably go, no, I beat Matt in
Fuck them, no, he won.
1987.
He was the guy.
And then after La Belle, don't get me wrong, the food was really good, but it was quite classical. And then when I left there and I went and worked for a guy called Steve Manfredi at the restaurant, and it was around a time that, food was exploding, and these guys, Barry McDonald, Simon Johnson, John Sussman, these guys had started up their own companies, importing cheeses. Barry McDonald was the guy out at the fruit and veg markets that would, find things that when I grew up, asparagus came out of a tin.
Yeah, same.
And
they were really soft.
And people started growing it in Australia. So, we were the first sort of people to start seeing that sort of stuff. John Sussman was an ex-chef restaurant guy that got into seafood. He was from South Australia and he grew up down there, and, he was getting things like Coffin Bay scallops and squid, southern squid. And we'd never really seen that before. And it was all fresh. And so I just had this explosion at Manfredi of all this stuff, ingredients that I'd never seen. So if you put the ingredients to the classical training of cooking, you're going to have something pretty special.
Now I understand. So it's sort of like you got structure out of the French restaurant La Belle Helene or La Belle Helene, whatever it was, the structure there as to how to cook, like the process and the standards, and then you started playing around with ingredients.
And that's exactly what it was. And I remember my first initial reaction when I went to La Belle, because I couldn't get a job, Mark. Can you believe it? No one gave me a job. I went for about 20 interviews. I remember one guy.
You're probably fucking scared of me. You don't look like a chef. What are you, 6'2" or 3", like 100 kilos, built like a brick shit house. They probably, this bloke's not a fucking chef. Like,
well, mate, back in those days, I was a 15-year-old chubby kid from Blacktown.
Well, that makes it worse.
That couldn't speak.
Yeah, that makes it worse.
And
who's this dumb fuck walking in here? Look at him. He's got. But it's because I was one of them too. By the way, I had long hair down here somewhere and short on the sides. Like it looked like a real total.
I remember one restaurant I went to, Pier 1, I think, at the rocks there under the Harbour Bridge, and the guy said to me, plain as day, he said, "Mate, the first 10 don't work out, I'll give you a call." And it was pretty demoralising. Like, you just couldn't get an apprenticeship. And when I got one at La Belle, I was only 15, and I just bluffed my way in there. And I think I told you that story, but I just couldn't believe what they were doing with food, and it was just little things like fan strawberries and stuff. It was just like,
so when you went home, you said to your dad, "Hey, look, Dad, I saw this cooked."
Oh man, Dad picked me up because Dad used to come pick me up from Blacktown every night, 6 nights a week, and we'd talk, and 15-year-old kids in Blacktown didn't become cooks or chefs. So he was worried that because it wasn't that academic, he was worried that I might go off the rails, and if I leave that job, I wouldn't have a job because I couldn't get one prior to that. So he would say, is this what you want to do in life? I was like, Dad, you don't get it. Like, I love it. I'm falling in love with it. Like, it's just so different. And, my mates were motor mechanics and painters, and Sundays afternoons would get together, and I was smashed. I was so bloody tired because I'd done, all the hours. And I remember they used to whinge and go, "Oh, I don't want to go to work tomorrow. And, bloody got to do this and do that." And I used to think to myself, "Geez, something wrong with me," because I couldn't wait to get to work to learn something new.
You just said you learn the structure of French cooking. I mean, and a lot of great chefs or well-known chefs or successful chefs have done the same thing here in Australia. Actually, I got a tenant. His name's Haru, and he's a Japanese guy, and he also learned French cooking, and he's good mates with Guillaume somehow. But
I know Haru.
Yeah, he's
And
a
Shimon.
tenant. Yeah, he's a Japanese restaurant up there in Darlinghurst.
Yeah, right.
That's
So-
my building up there.
Right.
Well, one
So
of them.
the Shimon, who's his head chef number
Yep,
2,
yep.
he's a partner also.
Yep.
He worked for me for 5 years at in Brisbane.
Well, and a lot of these people had similar sort of background to you.
Well, the Japanese in Japan, you can probably get better French food in Japan than you can
Is that
in
right?
France. Oh yeah, because the French love the Japanese love the French. So it's all about status, and it's all about those designer
When it comes to
handbags,
cooking, especially.
and especially exactly the same. Like the Japanese love all the French wines, and some of the best bars in the world are in Tokyo. So another great example, a guy called Kazu worked for me for 18 years at Aria. He was the backbone. He was the engine. And I remember when he first started, Justin North, who was a restaurateur, a chef, rang me and said, I've got this Japanese guy. He's come out from Japan. He wants to get sponsored. Apparently he's really good. I said, great, I'll take him. And I thought, me being selfish, I thought, great. I want to learn a little bit about Japanese food. He'll be great. Get him to do staff dinner and he can teach me something. And I remember he came in and, I gave him a couple of months just to settle in. The guy was a phenomenal cook. You asked me to cook anything, a piece of fish, piece of meat, always perfect. And I said to him, all right, Kazu, show me some Japanese food. And he just looked at me blankly. And I said, what's the matter? He goes, French trained chef, not Japanese.
Okay.
I was like, fuck, mate.
I'm not going to give you sushi.
No. So his whole upbringing was all about French food. It's funny now, he's actually cooking Japanese food in a Japanese restaurant.
But help me out, right? So, you got Australians who want to learn French cooking. You got Japanese who want to learn French cooking. You got Australians who want to learn Japanese cooking. What about who wants to learn Australian cooking? What is it? What defines Australian food? I mean, we've had a lot of discussion. I've had a lot of discussion. I've heard a lot of discussion more recently about indigenous ingredients.
Yep.
Yeah.
Look,
How do we define this stuff?
It's an interesting comment because, we are one of the youngest nations in the world. We have this it's been, I shouldn't
Since
say
Captain
that.
Cook, yeah.
Yeah, since Captain Cook.
Which is controversial, yeah.
Yeah. But, we've got this whole culture behind us, which is indigenous, which is probably true Australian culture.
Yep.
But, food the way that it's gone now is Australian food. It's not meat pies and it's not hamburgers. It's a modern technique using, indigenous and, whatever we grow here. It's much cleaner.
For example, what are we talking about? I don't, pardon my ignorance, but I couldn't quote you Kakadu plums. What are we talking about? I mean, what do you mean by
indigenous flavours? Look, some of them. Look, I always had that sort of
Kakadu plum or something like that. I mean,
I always thought indigenous flavours weren't very good. That's why we didn't use them. And it was really arrogant of me and really naive of me. And it wasn't. It was just because I hadn't really seen it. And the stuff that I had seen, I didn't think it was that special. But there is a whole culture there. People like Jock from Marana and a few other chefs, and Peter Gilmore from Key, really started getting more and more into it. And there's a whole culture there and a whole cuisine that you can actually bring forward into modern cooking. And it's amazing. It really is.
But what are we talking about? I don't get it. So are you talking about you can get there's some berries you can dry and crush and get it flavored?
It is more vegetarian. We're not talking about wallaby and kangaroos and crocodiles. It is more flavors and spices and
aromatics.
Yes, that you can find and grind and mix in. And every different region of Australia is so different. So, you've got all these different flavours from all different parts of it. It's where it's, obviously in drier country or wetter country and colder country, because they obviously were nomads too, prior to Captain Cook.
Yep.
Because, we've got my father's found a couple of stone which have axes on our farm, which is really cold country.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, there's no way they were hanging out there in winter, because it was, it's freezing and quite a bit of snow. So they obviously came into that regions in summer and were hunting and doing whatever, and then would move back out of it. And I think that sort of explains a lot of Australia, where, they were nomads and they moved around quite a bit.
Do you think there's anything exportable though? I mean, in terms of, everyone else is exporting their stuff to us. Is there something we could be exporting out?
Yeah, I think there is. Yeah, 100%. We export a little bit now, obviously our meats and and fresh fruit and whatever, mangoes and truffles. We grow truffles down. We sell them back to the French and the Italians, which is fantastic. But there is definitely and we sell a little bit of indigenous meats too, like kangaroo and stuff like that.
What about the spices? Is there a
100%.
marketplace? Yeah,
there is a marketplace.
Is there someone collects this shit?
Well, there was a whole thing done that Jock did in South Australia. And I'm not sure where that is up to, but there's like a encyclopedia of what you can use and what you can do, and do with it. So I think that will, that's the future. I think there is.
I mean, it's not often I get to, I can't ask this question normally because most people, I don't know them very well, but I can ask you. So recently, I interviewed a bloke called Denon Kemp, and Denon owns a business called Bloke in a Bar. It's a beer.
Yeah.
But he has a podcast called Bloke in a Bar. It's extraordinarily popular amongst younger people.
Yeah.
And we talked about the concept of being a bloke.
Yeah.
Okay. And I get it. Like there's all sort of diversity, and we got to be accepting everything and everybody the way they are. Their sexual preferences, all that sort of stuff. I understand all that. Get it?
Where are you going here?
Well, I don't know, mate. Don't worry. I'm not going to put one on you. But I guess what I want to ask is, how do you feel about, for me, you come across as just for me, my generation, a normal bloke. We're sort of close in generation, in age sense. You're just a normal bloke, a real bloke. You know what I mean? Like there's nothing fancy about you. You just dress like a bloke. You speak like a bloke. You act like a bloke. You eat like a bloke. Like what I consider to be a bloke. How do you feel about that stuff going on at the moment? I mean, do you mind us talking about it? I know you got a daughter, you got kids, you probably got to be sensitive to this sort of stuff. I mean, my young brother, for example, he's got 2 daughters who are in their 20s. One's just going through university now and the other one's finished. But they're always pulling him up, saying, Dad, you can't say this, you can't speak that way, you can't use those words. And he has got an ounce of intolerance in him whatsoever.
Yeah, right.
Like he's a very tolerant guy. He doesn't care about whatever people's preferences are, nor do I, to be frank with you. But I still am what I am.
Yeah, of course.
How do you feel about that?
Mate, I am what I am. I'm a bloke. I like cars, I like motorbikes, and I like boxing and gym and whatever else, and swimming. But I grew up in an industry that is accepting of anything and everything. I remember there was someone that I knew, and I won't say who it was, but I remember him being quite racist and homophobic, and I just thought, wow, that's a really good person. How can they be like that? And I actually just put it down to being educated, not being exposed and not being around it. And, I'm tolerant of anyone and whatever their choices are and whatever they want to do. But I think it's just that era that I was brought up into. And I think my parents are accepting too, because they actually were part of my upbringing and seeing what was around me. Look, I'm a bit old-fashioned in the old sense too. As I think a bloke can still be a gentleman. Should open a car door and pay for someone's meal. But if someone wants to, pay it back, well, then they should be able to too. Look.
Is there something you need to think about that? Do you?
No, not really. I don't really. No, I don't. I just look. I'm a little bit older. I'm not a thug like I used to be, and I just have that real sense of generosity and humility. I think is really important. Never forget where you came from, and I think you're similar to that. And generosity, generosity doesn't mean that you got to give money away all the time, but generosity can be for anything. I remember in COVID, we're all hunched up and all pissed off, and we couldn't go out and do anything. And I went up to Fruitologist in Bondi Road, and the back of Kennedy's there.
Yep.
I came in to drive, and there was this old lady and a guy in a BMW, local, old, trying to back into the spot. There's a guy that wanted to get out, and he couldn't get out. And she's trying, and couldn't do it, right? The guy over there started bipping, and I was come on, you must be able to do it. And then I just thought, and I looked at the woman, and she looked at me. I could see the pain on her face that she was trying to reverse in but couldn't do it. And then the husband gets out, and he's trying to direct her, and this other guy's getting really shitty. And as she realised she couldn't do it, she came out and she wound her window down to me, and she said, "I'm so sorry." And I said, "Just wait there." So I got out of my car, and I said, "You don't know me from a bar soap. Do you mind if I can park your car?" And so she said yes. She got out, left her handbag in there. I got up in the car and stole it. No, I didn't. No, and I reversed in and put her car in, and the look on the guy's face, you could see him thinking, you know what, that was probably a nice thing to do.
Probably I should have done that. He
probably should have done that because he was getting angry. And I just thought, you know what, it's not hard to be kind to people, And then she's like, and someone yelled out, "Oh, good on you, Matt," And then she's looked at me. She said, "I know you. Where do you live? I want to send you." I said, "You don't need to send me anything sweet." I said, just go and get your groceries and go off and whatever. And I think being kind to people is really important.
But how do you manage that all the time? Like, I mean, what about you finished in the restaurant, you had a shit day, not everyone turned up, or something happened in the kitchen, which is more than likely every time. How do you deal with that when you're really pissed off?
Look, you have bad days, and you have non-bad days.
What's a bad
for me in a kitchen, like I run a lot of places, so I'm not in the kitchen like I used to be, and I'll be honest about that. And to be really honest, when I was in the kitchen 20 years ago full time, I was a bit of a tyrant. And because it all comes back onto you, and you bear the weight of someone not having a good meal. It's your reputation, your name, and I was a lot worse. But then you grow up. And I'm sure it's similar in what you do, Mark. If I walked into a kitchen now and bagged some young kid, it would destroy him. I just couldn't do that anymore. And I won't do that anymore. If I see something that I don't like, I'll talk to the head chef, and it goes down the line. I would never confront a young chef anymore. If anything, I'm actually supportive and positive and looking after him.
I mean, do you think is that sort of growing up?
That's growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, having kids.
Yeah, having your own kids.
Being soft.
And does I know your wife's an intelligent professional who's, obviously has influence on you.
Yep.
Has she had any influence on Matt Moran?
Of course. I think
has she sort of not changed you, but
no,
helped you grow or evolve?
She's very left and an incredibly successful lawyer, and heavily involved in Indigenous politics and all that sort of stuff. Look, I think anything, I think my son has a big influence on me these days. He's 19, wants to be a doctor and doing, science and stuff down in Melbourne to become a doctor.
He's doing medical science, yeah.
Yeah. And biochemistry or whatever it is, biomedicine or whatever, and science. That's got a direct run into medicine. He's bright too. And sometimes I'll do something and he would just say, "Oh, Dad, you know what, you're being a bit out of line."
He pulls you up.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, yeah. And even my daughter does sometimes, which I think is a good thing. I don't think I ever did that to my father.
Oh. No, forget it. I wouldn't have even thought about saying, my dad, if my dad said something that I didn't agree with, I would just do it.
Yeah.
Irrespective. And mum, especially mum.
Yeah.
Tough Irish mother, mate. She was tough.
Yeah.
You would never stand up against her. She's too smart anyway for me. And it's all over it. I have no chance. Can I ask you, everybody I know is up in Byron at the moment, but where does Matt Moran go for holidays?
I want to have a summer holiday in Sydney. I've got a mate that's got a place in Byron, so I'm going to go see him for a couple of days in between Christmas and New Year.
But everyone's going there. So where would you go apart from you're going to go to Byron for a couple of days? Where's a place that Matt Moran would love to go?
I'm going. Look, I love Australia, Mark, and I've been very, very blessed. I dated a girl in my early 20s who was a flight attendant, and we did a couple of trips around Australia. I've pretty much been everywhere in Australia except for Cooper Pedy and Broken Hill. And, I've been all the way up through the Kimberleys and Northern Territory, most of the Cape, down to Tassie, South Australia. I love it. Margaret River, if it's not one of the most beautiful places on earth, I don't know where it is.
Yeah.
And, New South Wales, I've been around. I love my motorbikes. I'm planning a trip around the mid-January for three days, and we're going to go down south into the snowies. I've never seen the snowies in summer.
Right.
And, Thredbo and Perisher, it's always had snow on it. So I'm keen to have a bit of a look around there. And I'm going to do that for a couple of days, and then the rest just hang out in Sydney. I think we're going to be busy in Sydney in January because there's a lot of people
your venues, you mean? Yep.
Businesses will be busy. I think a lot more people are going to be in Sydney than what normally there is.
Yep.
So I'm looking forward to that and being busy. But yeah, just hang around. Might go to Noosa for a couple of days here and there.
If I said to you, where's a place that you haven't been to? Because I had never been to Tasmania until 2 years ago, and I went to Tasmania.
Really?
I loved it. It was just so fucking good.
Yeah, mate, how
Tasmania
beautiful
is
is it?
unreal, just unreal. So I did the Tasmania thing, but there are still lots of places in Australia that I haven't been to. I mean, I lived in Perth for a long time, but I'd like to go to some of the places. I'd like to go all the way north, right to the tip, whatever that is, up right at the very top. I'd love to try that out, and I'd love to drive
Cape
up
York.
there. Yeah, Cape York. Is there where's some place that you just say, fuck, I'd love to go there?
Mate, I think I've been. I would like to do the west coast of Tassie. I've never been to. I'd like to drive from. I did a trip from Darwin to Broome in a helicopter with Matty Wright a couple of years ago, which is over 4 days, which is fantastic. I'd like to do Perth up to Broome, up that coast. Monkey Mire, and I've been to Carnarvon. I did a fishing thing there once, and just sort of have a look at in the Pilbara region inland a little bit. But yeah, I'm pretty lucky and pretty blessed. I suppose my happy place is when I'm not in Sydney is the farm.
Yeah. And where's your farm?
Farm is 3 hours west, so it's central Tablelands, west of Oberon and south of Bathurst.
Right.
So cold country.
Beautiful. And do you grow anything there?
We've got fat lamb, beef, and I've got a few pigs too.
You got some pigs. Well, when I was it was about maybe 8 years ago, my boys decided for my Father's Day they'd buy me a pig because they said they eventually told me it was George Clooney had a pet pig.
Oh, that was a little midget one.
Used to follow him around, right?
Yeah,
so my boys bought a little pig, right?
They're thinking it was a midget.
The fucking pig turned into be a monster, right? Like it was like must have been 200 kilos or something, maybe more. It was a massive black and white thing. It was huge. And then we had to give it away because the poor thing was living on its own. And they do like to be with other animals. But I mean, I actually loved it when it was small because it did follow me around. It was like a dog. Yeah. Pigs are really intelligent.
Stupidly intelligent.
Like people don't have any idea, and they're actually very friendly.
Yeah, they are.
But they can make a mess.
Yeah, they can make a mess. We've got Berkshires and
what do they look like? They're the black and white ones.
Yeah, they're black.
Black
haired. They're the ones that you make kirabuta and you get beautiful ham out in Spain and whatever else. Do
you feed them pine cones and stuff? What do you feed them?
Acorns.
Acorns. That's it.
No, I don't. But my boar is about 400 kilos.
Whoa.
He's getting too big for the sows. And we obviously use them in the restaurants when they get, we have little ones and then they obviously grow up and that's what happens to them. They go, they do the big trip to Sydney.
Yep. But how do you feel about that?
Oh man, I'm a country boy. I grew up with it. I don't have any issues.
Doesn't bother you?
No, not at all.
What about your kids?
No, not at all. No, they're accustomed to it, and they've seen what happens on the farm. And you know what? I think being a farmer, it's all about when your livestock is alive, you give it the best life it possibly can. And it's all about animal husbandry and making sure that they live the best life. But
so it's an ethic.
Farming is ethical. It's got to be. We don't have dogs on the farm anymore. And we haven't for a long time.
Well, why not?
It stirs them up and stresses out the animals.
Oh, the animals, yeah.
And and that shows in the meat. There's no question. If your animal's stressed and freaked out and a bit wild, the meat's going to be tougher.
Mate, I got a Brahman stud, and
do you?
Yeah,
we're up north.
On my farm. So I got a couple of 100 acres there, and I got a Brahman stud, and we sell stud cattle. Like we sell it off as not to go to the meatworks. We don't send any of the fat sales, and we have to have dogs because you've got to herd the things up and down because I got a mountain at the top, so I muscle them up. We go on the show, so we muscle them up, make them walk up the hill, and down the hill, back up the hill, down the hill for water, back up the hill for food. So that muscles them up a bit. We don't do anything silly. We don't. So we give them a bit of protein to eat if there's a show on coming up, like the Echo or something, which we haven't done for a couple of years, but ordinarily. But I can actually say that I've never eaten any of my cattle because I just can't, because I eat meat, don't worry, but I just don't want to eat my cattle because they become like pets.
So you got all Boss Indias, which is a Brahman breed, which is more of a hot weather cow, and they go up north is where we breed Angus, which are all English breed.
Colder weather breed.
Colder weather breed.
No, I couldn't put one.
Taurus. There's Boss Indias and Taurus, and ours are Taurus and yours are Boss Indias. Yeah. But I love Brahman.
They're so cute.
Yeah,
the little heads on them. When they're born, especially, they've got little heads. Gorgeous. Yeah, and mine are like pets. Like they've got docility factor in mine is very good. So you can, especially the show ones, you can just lead them around. But you can go up and pet them, walk up to the fence. Well, they think when they hear the diesel on the back of my little thing, there's food coming. Yeah. So they all bolt down and they're all sitting there and waiting for you. And they're basically waiting for you to go up. And you go up and pet them. And some of them, we got names for some of them. And I've been there. I remember one year I was there on New Year's Eve and it was pissing down rain. It was just the worst New Year's Eve ever. And I got a call from the guy who lives there, the manager guy, and he said, there's a problem where someone's prolapsed and the calf's laying in a puddle downstairs. Can you come get me a hand? We've got to carry the calf up and the mother's womb up and make the mother walk them up to we've got a nursery thing there. And I'll never forget it. And we've got then the mother wouldn't let the calf feed, so we had to get the whatever it is you get out of the udder first off to give to the calf because you get whatever the stuff's called. It's not milk, but whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. I actually really loved it. I mean, I was exhausted. What we're worried about, though, we're talking about dogs. What we're worried about, why we have dogs, is what we're worried about is that we have wild dogs around the area.
Yeah, right.
And our dogs, the Brahmin mums and the aunties are pretty good. They will have a crack at wild dogs, but if a cow's just had a calf and the cow's not doing too good as a result, and the calf's just laying in the puddle, those wild dogs will grab it.
Yeah.
And they come along our place, along the railway line, the old unused railway line. They come in and they've killed goats and all sorts of things for me. So our dogs actually will keep them
get
away.
rid of them, right.
But other than that, we don't use the dogs really. We don't use them for herding or anything like that.
We used to name the bulls because we know that they're, so we used to have Insatiable, Incredible, and we had one who was a real shit, so he got Horrible.
Well, we had one, which my oldest boy went to the Easter show one time. He's in his late 30s now, but when he was like maybe in his 20s, he went to the Easter show and he saw the young bull that won whatever it was, and he rang me up and he said, "Dad, I bought us a bull and I'm sending him up the farm. He's on the way to the farm." I was like, "Oh, great. How much did he cost?" He told me the price and that, and so we got to name him. So they called him Sirloin. And he was a great bull. He produced for at least 12 years. Actually, we only put him down 13 years. We put him down last year because he used to jump over the neighbour's fence,
everyone else,
and he used to get his balls caught in the thing. We used to have done, because he had these massive big balls on him, and you have to cut him out. He just stand there while we cut him out of the wire and everything. But he jumped over one time. It'd been raining, and he got caught in a mud thing, and he sunk. It was a ton, and he sunk, and in the end we had to pull him out of the tractor, but he was no good, so we had to put him down, unfortunately. But Sirloin, he was great because you don't have many bulls, so you can name them,
and you're not going to eat them.
Yeah, correct. And we don't eat them, that's for sure. But because I speaking about food and bulls and animals, like on Christmas this year, it's my turn, but families have turns, so I've had made for me, and I haven't told my family yet. They'll see this around Christmas time, but I've had made for me a pizza oven, but a proper one, like it's meter wide, all that sort of stuff. The guy's finishing it off today. He's Italian blade professional, this sort of stuff. And in Greece we have these things called furnos, and a furno is it's a furnace, but it's a pizza oven. What you do is you heat the pizza oven up, and during the day, but got it to 400, you leave it there for an hour or two, then you pull the wood out. You close it up with a thing. You leave it overnight, and in the morning, at 2 a.m. in the morning, you go and put in a lamb or something like that.
Yeah.
And you close it up and you leave it, slow cook it right through till about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yep.
So that's what I'm going to be doing on Christmas Day. I'm going to be and you put vegetables, you put everything in there, right? Then of course you're going to make your salads and everything else you need to make. Yeah. And
that's a very Greek Christmas, by the sounds of it.
So, and it's my turn. So I'm just doing it because my mum passed away a couple of years ago, and I just want to give my dad a really big treat. I want to surprise him, right?
Yeah.
I hope I don't fuck it up.
I hope you don't.
Because I've got to have a few practice runs.
You've got a chef around the corner, haven't you?
Yeah, Guillaume. Yeah,
you can always come and help.
Well, yeah, I'm sure Guillaume would be busy, but but I don't think he could cook that. So Guillaume would probably cook me something with souffle,
something French.
Something French. What do you do on Christmas Day, or you don't cook? Someone else cooks,
mate. No, it's the total opposite, mate. Christmas Day is an important day to me. I love Christmas Day, and I love cooking for Christmas Day. I never go anywhere else but home. So I built my house. I got a big pizza oven. I got an outside kitchen. I got an inside kitchen. I think I've got 6 or 7 ovens in the whole house, and big old Le Conche that
What's
it's not
that?
old. It's a big French oven. It's got 3 ovens in it, and I say to family, friends, Christmas Day, you're more than welcome to come over. But
if my thing gets fucked up, I'll just come around your place.
You come to my house. I'm not leaving, and I get up early in the morning, and I do a ham. I do a turkey.
You do it on the day.
On the day.
Yep.
Ham, turkey, goose, normally some roast pork, duck fat potatoes.
Beautiful.
Which are always the best. Always have an Aria Christmas pudding at the end of it. And my mate, who's a chef, he comes over with his family and he brings seafood. So we have oysters, prawns, a little bit of lobster or something to start with. And then we have I've always got too much food.
Yeah.
But it's always the leftovers for the next week.
Yep.
So, it just sort of gets.
So when you get a
through.
lobster, can I, mate? I don't I go out to I tell you something funny. You know the DeCostis?
Yep.
Well, the original DeCostis, not the ones who own it now. The Italians own DeCostis now, but the original Greeks.
Yep.
My dad came out in the boat with them from Greece, and he said to me, his name wasn't DeCosti, his name was something Costi or Costa.
Yeah.
He said, but he got smart. He put it made it sound like Italian because he was, to open a seafood thing. What he was doing, it sort of was more cool to be a DeCosti as opposed to be a Costa.
That's what all the Greeks did. Like you look at, all the butchers, the Havricks, and they're all Andrews.
Yeah.
They're not real
Peter
Andrews.
Andrews is not Peter Andrews. There's probably Panagiotis, the old man, Panagiotis something or other.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And all the Paspales, they weren't Paspali.
No.
Paspalis, and they changed their names.
Where would you go and get a good lobster, for example? Like if you go to the market, do you get to the markets? I mean, I know you probably got other avenues. But
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, but I mean, like if you're me, like where would you save me? Like, because for me, the best lobster is you go and get an uncooked lobster and cook it, because all the lobsters you go and buy at the markets have been cooked and they put them on ice. I think they lose their flavour a bit.
There's so many different variations of lobsters in Australia,
right?
And that is the big difference,
right?
So and I'm going to be controversial because they'll hate me for it, but the WA lobster is a real inferior lobster. It's cheaper, weight ratio. It won't survive. I made a comment years ago on a cooking show, and some guy waited at the airport to beat me up because I called them rats of the ocean, because they've got lots of them, and they're great to eat as long as they're nice and fresh, and you kill them and straight away you catch them.
Yeah.
You catch them anywhere in WA. And then you got the southern crays, which come from South Australia and Tasmania. And they are the premium one. They are fantastic. Then you have the local Sydney lobster, which is the big green ones, which I think are the best.
They come out, when you say Sydney, they're out of Sydney Harbour?
Well, Sydney and South,
right?
So they the South Coast, but they're a green lobster. They're very different to the Southern Crays or the WAs.
And when you cook them, they turn red, though.
Yeah, they all turn red. They all turn red.
But how would you know how would I know where to get a Sydney?
A local green rock lobster. That's what you'd call it.
But
you'd get them down the fish markets if you asked. Or you can go online now. There's so many apps. There's Shore Trade, which is the guys that I help launch, where you can go on and you can actually buy fresh
Shore,
seafood.
S-U-R-E?
Yeah, S-H-O-R-E.
Shore Trade,
Shore Trade, and which is owned by Minettas.
Right.
And Minettas have an online app that you can actually buy stuff and get it delivered.
Right.
Everyone's talking about how mad the fish markets are going to be this year and how busy they're going to be.
Buy it online, get it delivered.
Mate, get on exactly the same. And there's a great store, seafood market that I go to all the time in Maroubra, in the main shopping complex in Maroubra.
But you mean in the shopping centre there?
It's a bloody fish and chip shop,
yeah.
But they sell fresh seafood, and I go there sometimes. I got coral trout, fresh John Dory, crab meat, like it is, and fresh lobsters, live lobsters. It's just as good as the fish market.
Serious?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh. You can vouch for Menez, yeah. But this fish and chip shop in Maroubra is, and I go there and I see Manu there, or I see lots of chefs there all the time.
So this is a secret, mate. Like, this is something you guys know about.
Oh, you don't tell anyone.
No. Well, we just did. We just told a shitload of people, but they'll all be there. Because that's what I'm going to go. So I think your idea of having look, if you're going to do it, if you're going to spoil your family, look, I know it sounds a bit harsh when a lot of people out there struggling on Christmas Day, but at the same time, if you're in a position to spoil your family, you should spoil your family.
Absolutely.
So I really want to put on a spread for my family this time. I mean, I got my sister saying, you're right for Christmas Day. You're going to. I said, Jane, it's fine. Like she'll bring a pork belly or something like that. But I'm just letting them bring whatever they want. And I'm going to surprise the hell out of them. I'm really looking forward to it. I hope it's not pissing down raining, but I'm really, really looking forward to. I'm excited about it,
mate. Christmas Day to me is like that, and we end up having about 25, 30 people or whatever, and we cook.
Do you do it all day, like goes into the night?
Yeah, well, this is where it gets really interesting. So people leave after lunch. They've got to go to other families or whatever. So they just come basically to feed off me, and then they go. And then other people start turning up. And I like my wine, Mark, and I've got a cellar downstairs that's got one key to it. And a very dear friend of mine is also a business partner who's Jewish, upbringing. And they
business, I know who you're talking
about.
Yeah.
They do a I can't get in trouble with this. They do a Jewish thing in the morning, whatever, and then him and his kids come over to drink my French Burgundy and to have a ham sandwich.
Well, we won't say his name. I know you're talking about that. So, but that's pretty cool though. Like,
Yeah, mate, and they're like family too. So their kids come over.
But you obviously got a wine cellar. But I mean,
I always have the wine out for him, right? And I say, this is what we're drinking. And he goes straight and grabs my key and goes downstairs to get the good stuff.
But so when it comes to wine, I mean, do you? You said you got good French wine. How about Australian wine? Do you rate
Love Australian wine.
Yep.
I drink a lot of Australian Pinot. I like Chardonnay, which is white and red Burgundy. And Gioconda is probably my favourite wine in Australia. I think
What's it called?
Gioconda. Gioconda comes from Beechworth.
Yep.
Phenomenal. I reckon it's the best Pinot and probably best Chardonnay. I'm very lucky I get an allocation.
Boys, record that Gioconda. Better get some of that.
Mate, it's the best. You won't find it in bottle shops. It's too hard to get. There's a guy in WA that makes some great reds called Cloudburst. Mount Mary's. I'm getting more and more into Tassie Pinots.
It's a nice cold climate down there, I guess.
Cold climate. Yeah. I love Tassie Pinots. I love Tassie Chardonnays.
What about rosés? Because I have great memories of being in south of France when I was much younger, and getting really cold rosés. So,
yep.
I mean, apart from Matus, what's a good rosé?
Mate, rosé. Well, look, all the French rosés are fantastic, but Australia's getting a lot better. They used to do, it used to be really pink and cordial and really rich. But not
and a headache.
And a headache. Crinklewood make a great rosé, which is actually Hunter Valley.
Okay. So, that gets pretty cold in the winter, though.
Yeah, it gets a bit cool in the winter. They do great.
Crinklewood, I love the name.
Crinklewood, yeah.
I love it. Well, my mates own the Bird's Nest brand or Nest Egg. I don't know if you heard of the Nest Eggs, Andrew and Nugent. And actually, he and I are, I don't know what that says, but he and I are going to put together a whiskey brand together.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Why am I not involved in that?
You want to get involved?
Mate, bloody oath I will.
Actually, those little bottles over there. So that's some of our whiskies.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, bring them over. Like you
Mate,
said.
I love whiskey. And
so do I.
I collect whiskey.
Yeah, so do I. But I got Irish, everything, French,
a lot of
Chinese,
a lot of
Japanese.
Come over and have
these are the whiskies. So this one here is. I don't read the names out, but these are the ones we're trying at the moment, and they're not mature, but we're sending them around to people for tastings and for people to give us a view on things. And we've been working for 5 months. What we're going to do is we're going to buy a bulk. We found someone who's distilled, because it's not in the distilling. It's actually in the finishing off.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
How you finish off. And my mate's got lots of beautiful Shiraz, Nest Egg, one of the best Shiraz in the world. He's got some beautiful Shiraz oak barrels, which have, got a lot of Shiraz in them. He's also got...
Oh, I like that one.
Yeah, that's the darker one. Yeah, that's better. I can't remember what we called them now, but he's, and what we're going to do is we're going to finish them off for a year, 18 months in the right size barrels. And then we're going to actually design some labels and some bottles and have some fucking fun. I don't look to make money, but it'd be fun. If you want to hang out with us, he's a really cool bloke, Andrew. He lives in Adelaide. He's just bought a big farm in Tassie, and at some stage we'll probably start using Tassie water. But right now we've got water out of the Adelaide Hills. We're getting barley from not far out of Adelaide Hills, and then distillers. Yeah, there's some good whiskey makers there,
mate. There's some great whiskey in Tassie.
Oh bloody hell! Sullivan's is great, and Lark.
Lark is the guy the guy that did Lark's Kid was on Junior MasterChef a long time ago.
The OCD guys, I mean, I don't know if you taste the OCD, something OC Distilleries, I can't remember what extent. Ottercraft Distilleries, OCD. Their stuff's fucking fantastic. So, for example, I don't know if have you been to Dulcie's bar up at the King's Cross?
No.
So Dulcie's is a bloke who runs Dulcie's. Dulcie's named after a woman who was a famous King's Cross person many years ago, allegedly very theatrical and into all sorts, in and out of all sorts of things. But he's opened a bar, one of the old strip joints. He turned it into a bar. Yeah, and it's very cool, and it's got a little stage on it, and curtains on the stage. Obviously, there's no entertainment at the moment. There could be. And it's theatrical. And it's really cool. Anyway. During the COVID period, he's the guy who put the pressure on the government to allow someone like him, he's got a license obviously, to make cocktails and deliver them to your home.
Right.
He's the guy who started that.
Yeah.
So he's a cocktail delivery guy. Anyway, but he's got his bar now, and he sells all these unusual Australian brands, and I went and tasted the OCD whiskey at his place one Friday afternoon. fucking fantastic. And it sort of inspired me. I thought, you know what? I've always wanted to have a booze brand. I just wanted to have one. And I don't want to do beer. Like everyone's done it. Ginge has done it. Like I don't go do beer. Everyone's done that, and it's done to death.
I reckon there's something else also in this is where, you got the guys of Four Pillars doing the gin and, gin's gone everywhere.
Gin's gone mad, yeah.
I reckon white rum could be the way to go.
White rum, or what about tequila?
Mate, everyone's bloody Clooney in those.
Yeah,
mate.
but here they aren't doing it.
No, it's not a lot of tequila, but white rum I think is going to be
white rum being like Bacardi, as in Bacardi.
Yeah, like a white rum. I just think well, Bundaberg is world famous, but I just think no one's tapped into the white rum, and it's. I talk to a lot of mixologists or whatever that make cocktails, and they say,
well, the good thing about white rum is those sorts of things is you can make them quickly.
Yeah,
the whiskey it's got to hang out for ages, and you're sort of sitting there for years waiting to get it right, and you can't just sort of make it and sell it. Rum is distilled, and if you do it clean, if it's nice and white and clean, and they say allegedly is better for you because it's very clean. It's a bit like good tequila or good
vodka.
Ouzo.
Good
Ouzo. But I mean,
Drapper if you're Italian.
Correct. But if you want to, I'm happy to talk because he's a cool guy, and to be. Actually, for us, it'd be great to have someone like Matt Moran involved in it. We just thought we'd punch out because he's got all these distribution channels and his wine's known all around the world. But for me, I don't care for this is one of those bucket list things I've always wanted to do.
Yep.
And just tasting things and saying, well, that there maybe. And I actually quite like the Japanese style of whiskey.
So it's all right.
It's probably my favourite now.
Yeah. I've got some Habikis and some Yamazakis, and
You'll
have to come around.
We do a swap. You come around mine, I come around yours. But because I just my kids, I got 4 boys, and presents, the only thing I ever buy them is whiskey. So because I don't know what to buy the old man, so just go and get him a bowl of whiskey and be happy. And I only drink I don't drink much. So if I drink like a taste, and that's it, especially in the winter. But I've got these bottles sort of spread all around John. I needed someone to help me drink a bit.
And it's whiskey's so much more cooler, and I've got a lot of girlfriends that that come over and. Wives and whatever, they love with their whiskey.
Yeah, but everyone sort of thinks it's some old guy with a pipe or something sitting there with a pair of slippers.
No.
Whiskey. It's everyone today.
Yeah, it is.
And as you say, chicks love it.
Yeah,
Chicks love
love
whiskey.
Yeah.
And it's to me, I find whiskey, the imagery around it anyway, it's pretty fucking sophisticated. Well, there's nothing wrong with the beer. I keep going back to the bloke in the bar. This guy, mate, this guy is so clever. In terms of his product, he's so clever. He just gets all the footballers and the boxers and probably throws them a spare box of beer. Next thing you know, he's interviewing them. And then every opportunity they get, they're not going to promote Tui's or they're not going to promote anybody else. They're going to promote this dude called Bloke in a Bar. It's such a fucking good name, and it's sort of where I started with the question about men. I have 4 sons. We all grew up as there was always men in our environment. My dad's one of 6 boys. I've got every one of my dad's brothers largely got sons in their family, very few girls. So I got brought up in this fully male environment. And to some extent, it sort of hasn't been perfect for me because I have been a little bit insensitive to females over the years.
At least you can admit it.
Mate, my bank account admits because I've been divorced 3 times. And their timing is really pretty good because it's usually after some big sale, I should have probably 3 times what I have. But by the way, equally, I'm happy that they're happy, and I'm happy they're well and safe and stable and secure, and they're all mates still. I'm friends with everybody. So, and they're my kids' parents, what have you. So I have to be in that regard. But I'm actually happy to be. But in terms of my upbringing, I have to say it was apart from my mum, it was a fairly strong male influence, and I didn't know anything else about it other than being a bloke. I went to an all-boys school, both all through my life, and to some extent, I brought my own sons up that way. And because that was the only way I knew. And I only realised, probably in the last 10 years that I've probably been too blokey.
See, I remember Paddington at 22, there were 6 chefs in that kitchen, and there was me and 5 girls. All girls in the kitchen. And it was pretty full on at times. But
that's challenging.
It was challenging, but you know what? There's no such thing as a male chef better than a female chef, or a female chef better than a male chef. But I like strong women around me, and I've always had strong women around me, whether it's making TV or wherever. And, and I always find, I'm not sure whether you do or not, I always find that a guy can be intimidated by you, but a girl will tell you exactly how she feels.
Tell you to fuck off.
And if you're making a TV show and you didn't do it right, the guy will go, oh, yeah, well, that'll do. The girl will say, no, do it again.
Yeah, well, by the way, I prefer that.
I much prefer that.
And Paddington Inn, I didn't really go there, but I used to hear things about the Paddington Inn. It was a cool joint.
Mate, it was a great joint. When I got there in 91, Paul Maroney had it prior to me, and my partner who owned the building was my landlord back in those days. And it was and I was single when I was there too, so I had a lot of fun at Paddock Inn. But getting back to a strip joint, there's a very famous strip joint in Pitt Street called Minx that you go downstairs.
Yeah.
Here's a bit of trivia, and I don't tell many people that. I used to own that.
Serious?
Yeah, back in 96, 97, and it was an Italian restaurant. I sold it to those guys that turned it into the strip joint. So I never had it as a strip joint. But I owned that restaurant with my brother and Kirk Pangilly out of NXS.
Oh, yeah.
So Kirk's one of my best friends. And him and I used to own that in the late 90s.
I had Lane Beachley sitting right here.
Oh, did you?
Last week. Last, yeah.
I'm having lunch with him in a couple of weeks.
Talking about, you mentioned a lot of chefs, but like, who are your like god chefs? So people that, I mean, I guess different eras. You always
there are different eras. I grew up idolising, the Roux brothers and Ducasse and well, actually before Ducasse it was more Paul Bocuse and then Ducasse and Robichon and then Marco Pierre White and Gordon's one of my best mates. We've been mates for 20 odd years. We had a great trip for my 50th last year. He took me to Iceland.
It was Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah. Yep. So we went fishing in Iceland for 4 days, and I was meant to go back this year, but I obviously couldn't get there. And he hired Brands Hatch for the day, and we drove his bloody Ferraris and Lamborghini, or not Lamborghinis, Senna. What's he got? He's got Porsches, Aston Martins. He had 12 supercars there, and we raced them around the track.
That'd be cool.
So Gordon, I knew Gordon before Gordon was Gordon. He was just a chef in a restaurant. But I admire what he's done and how he's done it. He's a pretty incredible guy. And when it comes to Sydney guys, I grew up idolising Neil Perry and Tetsuya and all those sort of guys, and they're all great mates. I think what they've done for Australian food is pretty incredible. The younger generation now coming through, Andrew McConnell's and Shannon Bennett's in Melbourne. And we're all pretty good mates.
It seems to be to me. It seems to me to be the case. Like,
yeah, we are. Yeah,
it's a pretty close knit group.
Yeah, I think we are.
Is that like everywhere else? Is that like in everywhere else, or
there's the odd one or two? Look, we've always, around the world, Tony Bourdain Anthony Bourdain was a great mate of mine in New York, and Alfred Batali and Mario. They're all, I'm connected with all those sort of guys. Curtis Stone, who lives in LA. We're all good mates, and we all sort of look after each other. If you go to London, you can always get a restaurant booking where no one else can, or vice versa, and same in Sydney. When everyone said, "Oh, you can't ever get in that restaurant," I'm sure if I rang Guillaume or Neil or whatever, I could get a table today if you want. You want to go for lunch today?
Yeah.
But that's
Neil's just downstairs.
Neil's downstairs. Well, you should be going to the Chop House. That's mine.
Yeah, totally. How's it going? How's the Chop House going?
It's killing it.
Yeah,
yeah. So I'm selling.
I've got to get there because I want to go and see what changes you made.
Mate, we've sort of decorated a little bit and we've really branded.
But more to the
brand.
menu, like
menu's changed a lot.
So you're supplying the meat.
Yes, I'm supplying the meat, and we're buying other meat in also.
Yep.
Look, it's different from Rockpool. Rockpool's a beautiful, big, glamorous room and amazing. This is more of a steakhouse, and you can't get a vegetarian dish there.
Yeah, well, that's for me is perfect, but I know I should eat more vegetables, but I prefer it.
You can have sides. There's a nice green salad.
Yeah. But in terms of who do you think today is like a great emerging chef? Like who's? I mean, you're more like a doyen of the industry.
Yeah, I've been around now
You sit
too
back
long.
a bit. You can sort of sit back a bit. Who's the emerging young guys? That, like if I was to say in rugby league, I could quote to people too, or in boxing, I could tell you who the emerging fighters are. But who's the emerging chef?
Look, it's the younger guys that are out there having a crack. I'm not talking about fine dining. The guys from Sixpenny, I think, is incredible chefs that work there. but it's the people that are actually opening really cool venues and doing cool things. The guys from Matenyo, Ben and Elvis. Elvis actually used to work for me, 15 years ago. That are just cool at doing cool joints. They're involved in the Marys, and they've got Patenio and the Unicorn, and they're opening cool little bars and stuff like that.
If I was to say to you, and we'll just finish this off now because you've been generous with your time, but if I was to say to you today, because I go through these thoughts all the time in relation to financial services, or what we should give to people in Australia who want to borrow money, as a senior influential person in let's call it the catering industry, catering and entertainment industry, what would you wish for Australia in the next 10 years in terms of where you think the vendors of catering and entertainment should be, which you're one of, should it be in terms of offering to customers and consumers like us? Where do you want us to go?
Look, it's a tough industry, and you know that because I remember you came to me years ago with your son and the bar and whatever else.
It didn't fucking work out, and that was a fail. We're still paying it off.
That's why I could never go on that Celebrity Apprentice, because I could just never imagine you sacking me. I'd be like, you can't sack me. I fucking helped you.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
They asked me again to go on it this time.
Yeah, well, Sir Alan Sugar is probably taking a totally different tack to me. I didn't want to do it. They asked me, and I didn't want to do it. But I can't see myself wearing a shirt and tie and jacket anymore. I'm fucking over that shit.
No,
but I mean, I can't imagine you being on there.
No.
You'd probably jump over the fucking thing. What'd you say? So go on.
And
where do you want to see Australians?
Look, I think the government should help us a little bit when it comes to things like FBT, and fringe benefits tax.
For entertainment,
and should abolish that, because all that's going to do is create more jobs. It'll make the industry much more vibrant.
When you say fringe benefits tax, do you mean that the government should go back to allowing us to have a tax deduction for when we entertain our business clients, or whatever?
And which we had around in the 80s.
Oh, totally.
And when they did it, I think they sort of stifled that lunch trade.
100%.
But if they actually turned that around, and even had a trial for a couple of years and saw how much more money they would make through having people coming through the doors, spending more money in the economy, and having more staff, it would be a lot more vibrant, because the margins are getting harder and harder to make.
And have you made submissions to government about this?
Yeah, we have. Yeah. We've been really pushing through COVID.
You being we? Who's we? So what's
as a body?
Yep. Is there a body?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of them. There's the Hotels Association, and there's also the Restaurant Catering Association. So we've been trying to lobby that as much as we possibly can, and also payroll tax, which is
in the state
tax, which is just
you're getting charged for employing somebody,
which doesn't make sense.
And have you made representations to Perrottet here in New South Wales?
The Restaurant Catering have, numerous times. So we're still waiting to see what's going to happen.
Because I heard you on, I might have been 2GB or Ben Fordham talking about the COVID rules, relaxing the rules more recently, and that worked. I mean,
it does in certain venues. Like if we go back with no JobKeeper at the end of March, and no rent, relief, our margin is going to be unbelievably hard to make, and it'll send a lot of people broke. I'm not saying that I will, but we're a bit bigger and whatever else. But it will be so hard on some venues if they can't have 100% capacity of people in their venue. They just won't survive. So, either that has to be abolished, social distancing completely, or there has to be some sort of relief. Maybe not JobKeeper, but maybe FBT abolished, maybe payroll tax, abolished for a period of time. And just let us ease back into that.
And would you be happy as a just speaking on your own behalf, I guess here, if they said, okay, we'll get rid of FBT, but what we're going to do is we're going to increase GST to cover the gap? Because if you get rid of FBT and payroll tax, the money's got to come from somewhere. Then that's the usual argument.
I think FBT, if they abolished it, I think it would create more jobs and more people going out. So then it would just
raise more tax.
It would raise more taxes.
Yeah. Maybe
I never understood FBT, and I still don't. Not in restaurants anyway.
Well, I always think it come around about the late 80s or something when they introduced it, and I remember it, and I remember I think the reason they did it was because it looked like it was a rort that business people, salesmen or whatever, business people could get a tax deduction because they go to lunch. Whereas if I work in, let's say, public service, or I work in a bank, I don't get a tax deduction when I go to my lunch.
Maybe the rules should be tightened up a little bit.
Let's tighten the rules up, and let's make people will log it out like you do with your
Absolutely,
car. Log
yep.
these things out, and
Yep.
maybe they get something from the restaurant that says, yes, this was a business lunch. I don't know. But instead of just having a blanket rule saying, no, you're going to have to pay a fringe benefits tax for those employees who get the tax deduction or get paid for their lunch, so there being a fringe benefits tax, maybe instead of trying to just blanket us out with bombing, they go along those lines and say, no, what we'll do is we'll control it. You can have a tax deduction. There is no FBT. You can have a tax deduction, but these are the things you've got to comply with.
I just think the government's got to stimulate, our industry, which will end up stimulating the economy in some way, shape, or form. I just don't think if we just went back to normal, there won't be as many restaurants.
Well, I mean, I have some quite good relationships with Josh Frydenberg. I mean, we're mates, and he's a pretty logical guy, and he does listen to reason.
He's been listening to our industry quite a bit.
Yeah.
So there's been a bit of a lobby group there with.
I'd be quite happy to help out. Like, I mean, I'm happy to I would be very happy to push for something like that. I mean, I will go and talk to them, and I'll talk to the guys within Treasury, because I think it makes sense. And,
it does.
And if you're looking to stimulate the economy in certain parts of the economy, which could actually fall over, you've got to do something.
You don't want to come around Easter time watching restaurants fall over. You want to be able to help them get back on their feet and start making money and it obviously help our economy.
Well, I think we all should. I mean, if I take my staff to lunch, I should be able to get a tax deduction for that. I mean, to me, I'm taking my lunch. I ordinarily wouldn't take lunch, but what I shouldn't have to take lunch and think, well, I'm not going to get a tax deduction, so we're going to go somewhere cheap.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, or maybe another way of looking at it is I'll say I'll really spoil them because I know I'm going to get a tax deduction. Then they're going to cost me half, but it's still costing me. I still have to pay for it.
Yeah.
I don't get it back to. It's not as if it's someone said it's 50% here, Mark. It's 100% I pay. But down the track, I get a tax deduction for it, and so that gets reflected in the tax I might pay in 12 months' time or something.
Of course.
But like, I would definitely. I'm one who would. I would 100%. I would put more money back into that system, just as one person, because how else can I reward my staff?
Yeah, absolutely.
There is nothing else. What am I going to do? Buy them a Christmas hamper? Like, I can't get them a hamper. So what? I would rather, when there's an impromptu moment and they're all sitting here filming this, so they're going to actually quote me on this, but there's an impromptu moment where you want to celebrate something that just happened. You say, okay, let's all go to lunch.
Yeah.
Then you can.
Or you go to Aria, there's Chop House around the corner. There's mate, I can tell you, Chiswick, wherever you want to. North Bondi Fish, let's go.
But I mean, I will definitely do it because I'm only a survey one, but I think it makes sense. It sounds very logical to me, and it's an easy one. It's an easy win.
It is an easy win.
Because people are going to say, oh, wow, how cool is that?
Yeah.
Everyone's going to say, and like, it's about votes. That wins votes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Matt Moran, you have been sensational.
Mate,
thanks very much, mate, for coming in.
You are going to pay me back though, because you're going to come to my house.
Totally.
And I've been.
That's not a payback coming back.
I've been doing these kitchen tales.
Yep.
About your upbringing and
anytime you want, and
what food you were brought up on, and then I'm going to reproduce it in my way, shape, form, in my own kitchen.
100%, guys. Let's organise it. That's not a chore for me. That would be an absolute pleasure.
Mate, we're going to have you down one afternoon. We're going to
in January, February. You're going to be doing it.
Probably
February?
March. I think the next
March.
series.
Okay, I'm up.
I've got Lane actually. I get Lane to do it one, but differently. You'll come in by yourself.
100%.
But I'm going to interview you first.
Yeah. That's
not
cool.
On air, and I'm just going to talk about what you were brought up on food wise and what you hated, and then might just surprise you.
I hated stews, but what's interesting is I love a stew now. And my mum would cook the stews.
Stew. I love it. I love how you use the word stew.
Yeah.
But now it's a braise or
when I was a kid growing, it was a stew.
Because it was.
Yeah, it was a stew. Like
Irish stew.
Irish stew. Totally. Yeah. But just put in whatever's cheap and eat it.
Well, mate, you're giving me ideas already.
Well, I love a stew now. Actually, it's one of my favourites because to me it's the easiest thing to make. You just throw everything in. For me, anyway. You wouldn't cook that way, but I would. Mate, thanks very much.
Pleasure,
appreciate it. Merry Christmas to you.
Yeah, you too, mate.
Thanks. Hope you really liked that episode. Make sure you like and subscribe, and there's a heap more coming every week. See you soon.